You're listening to Kate of Gaia on Critical Mass Radio. The game is up. Now, it's our turn.
Good evening and welcome to Kate's Kids Night, outside the box version, here on criticalmassradio.co.uk. Yours truly, Kate of Gaia. Back at the helm. Anyway, I managed to catch a few minutes of the show last night. It's really not any shape to be calling in or whatever. Long story. All good. It's all good. Anyway, so haven't had a chance to listen back. Thanks, Mark, for jumping in there and grabbing the helm when you did, and Mike and Colleen, everybody that Claire, everyone that called in and took responsibility for your table. Wonderful to know that it will actually happen. So, no Katie crutches required. That's the game, right? We're here to stand up for ourselves. Where do I want to start tonight? Well, first off, it's my intent for this evening to get as many kids to the table as possible so we can get them to share their stories, their dreams, their imaginations, their wonderings, their questions, where we can finally be in a position to teach our children well so that they're not caught in the same quagmire that we were caught in as children growing up, where our children and grandchildren, which is the future, actually has one, and that's my goal anyway, to make a world perfect for children, clean up the nursery, the mess that has been made of it by supposed adults that are quite less than hormonal-driven, psychotic teenagers that know everything. Because I'll tell you, those of you with your eyes open, having a look at this world and realizing that being part of it once is quite mind-numbing. I was really part of that. I was a talking head, a literalist. Oh my God, you have these revelations upon yourself, where the saner you get, the more insane this place becomes. Well, it always was insane. You're just getting the eyes to see it for a change, which is a good thing. What can I say, really? So, this is great. I get to do two birthday broadcasts because it's already my birthday in Ireland. Midnight. Actually, it's not till 8:40 in the morning, Greenwich Mean Time. So there you go. Coincidentally, it's just a coincidence that tonight's BTR listener number is 50, and that's the magic number I just hit. Yay! Hit it. Next. Doesn't matter. It's just another day like any other. Just one of the clues on my path to figure out who the hell I was. Remember who I was. And, of course, for those that know anything about history, they'll know that June 15th, and I know it's the 14th, still in the West right now for another little less than 5 hours. But for those that know anything about history, June 15th, 1215 was the signing of the original Magna Carta, the first version. Also to let people know that I've heard, over the years, of course the Magna Carta was something I looked at, but the Magna Carta was something written not for the people, it was written for the barons and the lords, trying to get the king back in line so that the barons and lords could still steal as much as they wanted from the masses, the serfs, the people. So the Magna Carta had nothing to do with the general populace. It was a deal written between a fictitious king and a bunch of fictitious masters, lords, barons, whatever you want to call them, slave drivers. So it has no weight or relevance, really. It's just another distraction. And the other side of that one, too, is just like the U.S. Constitution or any other piece of two-dimensional paper. If you didn't sign it, it's got nothing to do with you. So it's none of your business. It's none of your duality, your state of duality business, right? I've had a few interesting questions come in, like I always do. Let me see. So go to my email. A couple things I want to go over first. Okay. check here. Just checking a couple of things. I know I flagged it. Where was it? Oh, this one is a shout out for Amy. Amy, if you're listening. And just let you know there's someone close to you. And if you can get a hold of me, Amy, just call me on my cell, please, 226-971-9675, so I can hook you up with this individual. Excuse me. Where was it? I'm close to Amy, and I'd like her, to hear some more of her, and I have some ferns to get her going, as in FRNs, regarding computer. I hope we can send her this email, or we'll find a way to get her a computer. So, Amy, if you can get a hold of me, I can get you in touch with this individual, and get you sorted out. The universe is taking care of things. So there you go. Just wanted to share that. I just replied that that you're not always on the show or on the board, but that if you are tonight, then that would be great. So, Amy, please get a hold of me, and I'll hook you up with this individual. And nope, not seeing your number on the board. So, but I know you listen to the show. So as soon as you get this message, give me a call on the cell. By the way, guys, really low on minutes, so be careful if you're calling me. I have had more phone calls this last week than I've had in a very long time. I had a chance to talk to Michael this morning. He called me. He's doing great, doing absolutely awesome. And I spent the time just reinforcing with him exactly why he's there, and he's having a good time. Made a lot of the people with the emails and whatnot very, very nervous. So keep that beautiful pressure on. Remember, there's no vengeance or vindictiveness here, guys. It's just a clear statement of fact. And you know me, I'm very, very blunt with the facts. It may come across as something less than that, but you see, I just have this thing about lying to people. I just tell you straight up what's going on. There's no point in beating around the bush, It's like somebody's house is burning to the ground. You're not going to walk up to them and start telling them about how fires start and, can you smell the smoke? And oh, look over there, looking the other way and stuff. No, you get right to the point. Buddy, your house is on fire. Let me help you. I've got a hose here. Okay? That's the attitude I adopt with everything. So, but yes, for those that want to call in, it's BTR listener 050. You put that in your Skype search. Search contacts. When it comes up, just right-click it to get to the board. And, of course, you can call in on the main line at 661-467-2401. And once you're on the board, all you have to do is hit 1 on the dial pad in the phone or open it up on Skype. And that lets me know that you want in the conversation. I will not be rolling over tonight, so don't even think about it. Mind is made up on that one, boys and girls. Anyway, what I really want is anyone out there right now that has children that want to jump in and want to maybe share some stories or whatever. That's kind of what tonight's all about. I will be looking for someone to actually host this night for the kids. I'll be there, but I would really like to start, handing the reins over for especially those that are more adept in that field than I. Yes, I love children, no question, but you know what I'm saying. Some people can just do it better. So there you go. Oh, here we go. There's Janet jumping in. Let me just get the lines open. Let's get the lines open up tonight, guys, because there was a few things, a few questions.
I said I wanted it.
Hey, how are you?
Oh, my mom, not
not the stupid doll.
She told I wanted to call my mom, not be on a show.
I love it. I love it.
She's waiting for her sister and her cousin because they were going to do the no-name peer mate, but
okay, no problem.
They went to find Mackenzie, so.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, they do know it's their show tonight, right?
Yep, I told them, and they were all planning on getting together because we're at the park right now.
All right, and you know, it's a little more than no names here, mate. Just want to hear a bit about you and what your dreams are, and this is the opportunity for the children to show the grown-up children how to be children again, to get that life of dreaming that was robbed from all of us at such a young age. See, we're at a point now where we will not let our children have their dreams taken. Don't you think? Oh, I still lost her. Okay. Oh, there you are. I heard something. That's all good. But anyway, guys, let's get in the fray here. There was one. I'm going to go through all of the questions that came in through this email. I also got it in a Facebook post as well. Same questions. Just got to find where it is. Let me see where it was. No, not there. Don't mind me, guys. And by the way, D Washimoto, your work is astonishing. I should mention to you as well, I know that you are tuned in, that isn't it funny that I was, in my travels today, saw a truck and it triggered with me on the side of it the initials TAV or TAV, which might resonate with you. Of course, TAV is backwards VAT, or value-added tax. Think of Vatican, and then of course I reverse that, and it's a not applicable spirit of TAV. Vatican, NA side TAV, right? In the mirror. Works, doesn't it? Isn't that funny how that works? Put it in the mirror with phonics, and it reads out perfectly. It's funny how this works. It's cosmically funny, and when you get the joke, you start really seeing it. So anyway, just maybe get your thoughts on that, D. Let me just see if I can find this other email. Well, just to let you guys know why this triggered with me. And this was, I guess, about 7 o'clock this morning in Toronto, or about close to 7:30 actually, as we're traveling in. So between 7 and 7:30. I saw and it jumped out like it was the only truck around. So, but here's what Dee had to share with her most eloquent wisdom. Look what the VATIAN drag tome, the Vatian drag tome. This is what it looks like when it's back into its C anus ana so 5DM. So it's perfect Phoenician, by the way. So I can read this. It's just hard to explain on the air. Let me see where it was. VAT or TAV. The Zohar states, now this is the impression or the seal of creation, so you'll understand now why it's called the Vatican and the seal of creation in the mirror. Everything in the physical realm is a complete mirror opposite of the spiritual. So keep that in mind. When you start seeing the world upside down and backwards, you'll start seeing it the way it really is. The Zohar states, the Tav makes an impression on the Ancient of Days. The Ancient of Days refers to the sublime pleasure innate within the crown or the will of divine emanation. The letter Tav, here referring to the kingdom of the Infinite One, blessed be He. Now, do you see the mirror, Vat and Tav? So if TAV or Tav means the kingdom of the Infinite One, blessed be He, then its equal and opposite mirror must be the kingdom of the finite all one, cursed be he, they. So Vatican makes total sense, doesn't it? So it leaves an impression on, go back to it, the letter Tav, here referring to the kingdom of the Infinite One, blessed be He, leaves its impression on the Ancient of Days. The impression is the secret of simple faith in God's ultimate omnipresence, the infinite present in the finite, for there is none like unto Him, the conclusion of the above quotation from the Zohar. And this goes right back to exactly what we've been talking about with the heart of all creation. It is the ultimate omnipresence, and I so gratefully have actually stood in complete awe of that omnipresence, where when you experience it, you will not be able to get your head low enough in a bow either. Right? And it's out of sheer unconditional bliss recognition. It's just an astonishing thing. Forever changed, I was, and am. This faith passes in inheritance from generation to generation, from world to world. The Malkut, or kingdom, of the higher world linked to the Keter, Kiefer, crown of the lower world. Isn't it interesting the boy name was Keith? Just a coincidence. The Tav, the final letter of the Aleph Beat, corresponds to Malkut, kingdom. The final divine power in the secret of your kingdom is the kingdom of all worlds. The impression of the Tav is the secret of the power that links worlds or generations together. And that's exactly what we are doing here. We're connecting the infinite with the finite, right? The all-infinite you with the finite version, or the truth shun of you, called the physical, Phi Psi Kol, the harvesting of the geometric formed spirit in body. Again, going back to the personified spirit, or the combination of both, referred to in Egyptian as the Ka, which is the oil and water together in the caduceus motif of the two polarized serpents with the singularity in the middle, and they're all intertwining to create the one, the 3 in 1, the 1 in 3. So, Dee, thank you very much for that. And again, just a coincidence, because I know when I mention this to Mary, if she's not tuned in right now, she'll already know, because I'd mentioned that in the car. Oh, interesting, Tav. That's a Hebrew letter. But anyway, I just wanted to share that. So I want to try to find this post with, let me just go to my messages. I know it was in there. There were specific questions being asked. And also, I'd love to have an opportunity, Hannah Rose, if you are tuned in, or one of your friends that, and a lot of your friends have been Facebook requesting me, beautiful second video that you put up there. I would love to talk with you one-on-one to get everything fine-tuned with you, hon. You are right there. You are so right there. Just need a couple of things to take you over the top. The stuff that you put out a little while ago that a friend of yours had sent to me regarding the notary and getting the seal and everything else, right? What you did in your video is exactly what I did 4 years ago. And I'm a long way from there, but it's only one step from there, from where anyone that's doing that is. So all of that long walk has been reduced to a single step. But Hannah, if you get an opportunity, please get a hold of me on Skype. Skype is my preferred, guys, because the phone, I have very limited minutes. I've got not a very good signal where I am, so I'm constantly having to move around to keep a signal with it. So just to let you know that, and I like to keep my minutes in reserve for people like Michael and Megs and others that need to get a hold of me one-on-one, depending on the situations that they're in. I do have some information I'm going to share with regards to Michael and how we can support Mike and Kathy. And, of course, the phone call, when Michael called me this morning, it says right on it that the phone call will be recorded, and I'm thinking, awesome. So when I was talking to Michael the whole time, I was talking third party to those criminals that are holding him, and that's the intention that was going in. And Michael was right there with me on it. And as I told him, as I told you, and he didn't have a problem with it at all. He said, the reason why you're there is because you're the only one strong enough with the right information to be there. And I know that you won't fold like so many others have. And Michael will not fold, I know that. I knew that the first time I met him. And they can play whatever tricks they want. I also mentioned, too, that regarding the bond, the $5,000 bond that his son put up for him, was going to be written off anyway. When the Crown Goonies get money in any way, shape, or form, they do not give it back. Okay? So if we can do something regarding that, that would be awesome as well. We'll get the word out and get that sorted. And I know, talking with Michael, that was not even a concern of his at all. That's more just to let people know what's going on surrounding that. Excuse me. Skater had contacted me as well regarding a situation, and I would like to talk a bit about that tonight. And really, I'm gonna go right to town on it, because I need people to wake up to know who they are. Okay, I don't mind people contacting me. I really don't. That's not an issue. I make myself open and available. The only thing that I will ask is I will not talk in circular. It's a really simple game. No name, no game. And I don't care what a system does to try to get that out of you. If you buckle and give up the name, well, you're bad. You failed your test. And that's all these things are now. People are still taking this shit too literal. You're going to be tested to know, do you really know who you are? And you're going to see for yourself. So don't ask me. Okay? Don't ask me. It's really, really simple. Anything involved in the system is Whore of Babylon. If you're partaking in it in any way whatsoever, in the mind and what have you, to the degree that you have broken any mental contracts, spiritual, same thing, with these things, is the degree that you will be tested. And they'll come up with all manner of story to scare the shit out of you, to make you think that you have to buckle. Well, if you don't give me your name, you're going to be arrested. Well, you can't arrest me until you get a name, dipshit. It's like the Bill Hicks. Go back and watch the joke where Bill is playing the bully and this guy that doesn't want any trouble, and there's a gun on the ground, and the bully's trying to tell the guy to pick the gun up. The guy doesn't want to have any. I don't want any trouble, mister. Just go into the store. Don't want anything to pick it up. I don't want anything. And of course, they keep going to the point where the guy that doesn't want any trouble yields to the nonsense, and just as soon as he touches the gun, he gets his head blown off. You saw him. He was going for the gun. So it's the same way with the name. You saw him. He gave up the name. They'll do anything. I don't know how many times I got to say this to people. They will do anything to try and scare you. They'll threaten you. How many times have you heard this story, boys and girls, of someone standing in a courtroom refusing to be the name, and then a bench warrant is issued for that person? Okay, we'll send out a bench warrant for so and so, all caps legal name, whatever it is, and the living being is standing right there. You know, the one that the legal assumption presumption name is they're trying to connect with. They're sending out a bench warrant from the bench with the individual standing right there. What part of that don't you get? Sit and think about that. If it really was you, and there really was a bench warrant issued for the real you, they'd grab you right away. But they can't until you give up the name. You got to fess to be the name. They can't do a thing. And you guys still think this is a physical game. It's not. This is a mental universe. Get with the program. Have a little faith, will you? Well, we've been conditioned for too long to believe. And of course, when we have all these beliefs running around in our head, these imaginary molehills get grown into real mountains. And you do it to yourself. It really is that simple. Somebody asks for your name. Oh, well. Can't help you. You know, especially if you're dealing in the adolescent years especially. I'll tell you this. One, you got to... Now, keep this in the back of your mind, guys, and I know we do have adolescents tuned in here. Lose your arrogance. See, this is the biggest lesson of all. If you're walking around with, I'm untouchable, and that kind of crap, oh, you'll get touched. Because you don't know who you are yet. You're still in a Luciferian mindset, thinking I'm untouchable, so there, yeah. No, there's a difference between, I'm not interested, thank you very much. I don't need to gloat about it either. So if you're gloating in your freedom, then that's ego. Don't worry, Universe will give you a nice little bitch smack upside the head of your gloat. Right? What is gloat? Well, it's the goat or the Christ consciousness with intent. And you got to lose the intent. That's the Luciferian, right? In a world, in a universe already created, perfect in all ways, what makes you think that you can outcreate that when you are part of it? In the same way that, adolescent kids, I was there. Anyone that's been a teenager and come through that, you were all there. Do you remember that time when you actually knew everything? Your mom and dad were full of shit? According to you? They didn't know anything? Well, my advice is, quick, leave home while you still know everything. And that's basically what we did. And then, of course, we, the adolescent spirits, are growing up to the point where, well, I guess I figured that out. I guess I get to learn that lesson. But there you go. Now, I'm still trying to find this post. Just give me a second, guys. Where are we? It wasn't an email, and it wasn't a post. Now I'm going to find a darn thing. That would be really cool. Where are we? Just checking some stuff. You gotta love live radio, eh? Oh yeah, and Lyrid, thank you for the heads up there as well with regards to Hannah's stuff. Hannah, you got your shit going on, baby. So give me a call. I need to get you fine-tuned into the last little key, the one that will render you untouchable. Because let me just give a little breakdown of this. If something is notarized, it means that fraud had to be committed. You had to show identification. I will also stress with infinite relevance and importance and sincerity that you get this. You are not an executor or executrix. You are not an administrator. You are not a shareholder. You are not an owner of a legal name. You are not any of these titles that are anything and all things to do with legal. They are merely distractions. Went down all those rabbit holes. They all led to the same place. Hell. So, and that's, again, the Luciferian arrogance of thinking that you're going to take control of something that was never meant to be taken control of and wasn't yours to begin with. Right? And this is the fine line that people need to cross. But if you get something notarized, you've committed fraud to do it. And the notary's aid in that fraud. Notary will not notarize anything without any identification. If you refuse to do that, and especially if you tell them, if I use a legal name, is that committing fraud? They will not touch your paperwork. I know we uncovered this 3 years ago. We had notaries refusing to sign off on documents that I've written. Danica Ultimatum was the first major one that did that. Any notary worth his or her salt wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole because they know they're committing fraud. You got to be the one willing to give up the identification that says I'm a dead legal fiction. Because remember, who do the notaries work for? Oh, right, Kate. They work for the Crown. Anything you're trying to do in a deal with the devil, anyone that's working for the Crown is just that, is a deal with the devil. Anything that you're trying to do in the legal sense still says that you have not got your own authority, that you still need somebody else's permission to stand true. I don't play that game. I don't play that game at all. So I should, here's my, what do you call it, Skype for those, Hannah especially, if you can get a hold of me. I'll message you on Facebook, hon. Just, I want to make sure I hook up with you because I know there's a lot of people that respect you, and your way of delivery is beautiful. I'd like to give you the home run if you don't mind. If you want to hit that ball, I'm going to show you how to hit it right out. Never mind out of the park, off the planet. Because you got what it takes, kiddo. I can see that already. Let me see. A little post from Eddie regarding corporations and states of Jersey, whatever. Guys, stop trying to track this stuff down. Okay, these are all dead-end rabbit holes. I know, I've been down them all. Go ahead, hit me with a topic or something and ask me about it, and I've already been down the rabbit hole. You can cover a lot of rabbit holes 7 days a week, 12 to 16 hours a day for 4.5 years straight. Weekends included. Like I said, I took a week off to bury my dad. Okay? So I've covered a lot of bases. I've worked with a lot of great people to do this as well. And we have this thing right down to the bare bones. All I'm waiting for is more and more of you to wake up to the truth that no name, no game. The name is the absolute, absolute, absolute. Did I say absolute? Yeah, I did. Absolute must for you to agree to in any way, shape, or form where it can be, even with a scent of assumption and presumption. That's all it takes. And the werewolves, they'll be hot on your scent. And they will try every trick in the book. They will threaten you with jail. They will threaten you with arrest. They will threaten you with all manner of nonsense, and that's all it is, because they're completely powerless until you give up the name. When you give up the name, you just gave them all your God power. Don't do that for your sake and for the sake of it. Okay, so let me just... There was and I'm going to read out an email that came in for those wishing to travel without a passport. Yes, it can be done. Of course, it can be done. I already exposed the fraud that a passport is. I already got confirmed from the British High Consulate that any use of the legal name is fraud, and I've been saying that for over 3 years now. I think finally people are starting to get it. That's a good feeling. It's a very good feeling, and I will continue to repeat myself. I'll be the rhythm guitarist to your lead any day of the week until you figure the lead out. But any question you feel you need to ask me is you're asking the wrong being. Because most questions you will find are simply people looking for a way to justify their mistakes, to make them feel better about the things that they should have done, could have done, would have done, but didn't. Don't look to me to be someone that's going to, I'm going to point out exactly what. Because I had to go through it. The good news is if you're paying attention, you don't have to. So if you insist on wanting to go through it, then don't listen to me. If you want to get your life ripped apart, then please carry on. You're the teenager, you know it all. Just have a think of that for a minute. Would I rather walk through a minefield without any of the mines marked for me, or would I rather walk through a minefield where most of the deadliest ones have already been exploded, and any of the little ones that are left are well flagged and fenced off? Which minefield would you rather walk through? I'm offering you the second one. But then again, being the adolescent spiritual teenager that you are, you know better than me, so have at her. You want to blow yourself up, knock yourself out, that's fine. I'm just going... scrolling down to try to find... There was a whole series of questions that someone had asked me. I mean, I know why, because I already answered it, so it's going to be... I'll be okay. My answer was very short. Because there only is one short answer to this. Lose the name. Where was it? And I'm going to go through the questions. And I understand where they're coming from. There's a lot of left brain anal ISIS going on here that needs to stop. You need to stop doing this. You need to stop looking for justifiers to keep you thinking they can play in the game. There's a difference to being in the game and worshiping the game. And it all stems right to the, psi stem or cyst M. I prefer the psi stem, my spirit seed, my tree of life that I'm growing, my book of life that I'm writing, versus the book of the dead and the cyst of the electromagnetic. Right. Okay, so let me see. Got to add the context. Sorry about that. I thought I did already. Anyway. Okay, here were the questions. This one came to me from Pal Alto. Okay, so here we go. Just going to check the board, make sure. Yeah. Okay, we're good. 122.11 when I checked it. What are the odds? Apparently pretty good. Okay, so here was an email I got. Now, I'll go through each one of the questions, and they were fairly, I wouldn't say lengthy questions, but a lot of writing into this, and The answer that I gave was this: only one answer. Ignorance of the law, divine law, is not an excuse, given one finally realizes the whole physical game is an illusion. I'll discuss this tonight or tomorrow night, so I guess it's tonight I'm doing it. Depends on how many children show up tonight for the kids' night. And again, well, Saturday night, so table's still wide open. I'll finish off on this, and then we'll get the table going and get everyone jumping in here. And let's get some of this nonsense sorted out, guys, once and for all, so that we're not dealing with the same thing. Remember, tomorrow's Magna Carta Day, or in some cases it already is. And it's time for us to take our own magnetic Karoti, or Karota, which is a spirit breath and gratitude of creation. Makna, which is the as above to below, from below to above. Ma, there's your as above, so below. Ka, spirit. Na, now applicable. See, that's why the name is not applicable and now applicable. Just depends on which one you're using, and it will always be assumed and presumed that you're using the legal one until you clarify that. Anyone that sets foot in the courthouse right now is in contempt of court. I'm going to tell you this very, very bluntly, and I'm going to tell you this once. Kate of Gaia is sitting as the judge on the bench, okay? The courtroom is filled with people with this ticket, that ticket, another ticket. And I'm simply going to stand up, and I'm going to tell the bailiff to close the door and lock it. And then I'm going to say each and every one of you are committing a capital crime called false impersonation by using somebody else's property and claiming it to be yours, by using another's name and claiming it to be yours, which makes you a felon, makes you counterfeit. False impersonation is a capital crime, punishable by death. And I will simply ask the bailiff to execute each and every one of you. And I'm going to do that in full honor. How do you like truth now? So remember that if you feel the need to go into a courtroom, that's what you're doing. And that's what Michael just proved. Michael, in his actions, took down the whole system. He doesn't realize it yet. I gave him a good idea that he has today. But I need you to get this. Because of that, it exposed the entire system's Achilles heel. And for those of you that feel the need to go into court, well, you're committing high treason. You are in contempt of court. You are aiding and abetting someone behind the bench into committing fraud by the mere fact that you were there. Both parties are equally guilty. Both parties equally culpable. Both parties equally executionable. Let the dead carry out the dead. Let them kill themselves. Wash your hands of it, Pontius. Okay, so here are the questions. Dear Kate, I have some questions regarding registration and the name. Fair enough. The questions are addressed primarily to you, Kate of Gaia. However, it would be good to hear these questions discussed on air by the other people that frequent the radio show. If you do respond to these questions on air, which I am, and the session is put on YouTube, please could you post a link somewhere on your Kate of Gaia website or Facebook page? Yep, well, it'll be posted. It's already on my Facebook page. So by all means, if you're tuned in right now, just grab the link that you're listening to, and if you're listening, great. And at the end of the show at 9 o'clock, within about 5 minutes, it's already archivable, so you can download it and listen at your leisure. Okay, so there you go. The first question was, what happened before registration and use of the legal name in countries like the UK, Australia, USA, when their respective governments tried to make the local populace do something they didn't want to do, like paying tax? In other words, what was the nature of the interaction between people and their government without registration and use of the legal name, and how was it different after registration and the use of the legal name had become commonplace? Prior to registration and use of the legal name, did governments have little or no power over their citizens as a result? Well, actually they did, but I'll tell you that what happened there was the people were no longer buying the bullshit of religion. So by the late 1800s, if you look back, your Aleister Crowleys and all of the early New Age movement stuff going on, spiritualism and seances and all the rest of it, was becoming main place. So the tenuous hold that religion had on the sleepy masses was snapping left, right, and center. So without that particular fear, the people couldn't be controlled as much. And even to this day, have a look around at the religiocosis chosenitis types that still think that, I think it was 68% of Americans still think that there was a boat with animals on it, and apparently snakes talk and the rest of it. Yeah. But what happened in 1933 was just to make damn sure that if the church couldn't handle it, the other branch of the church called state. Remember, there is no separation of church and state. They're one and the same. But the ruse, as far as religion, was giving up the ghost. And that tenuous grip on humanity's psyche was being lost very quickly. So the whole 1933 nonsense is when the registrations all really kicked into gear. So if you look back, people used to, all you needed was a Bible, to travel with family tree on it for proof of ID, right? Well, if religion's no longer applicable, no longer having any power, well, let's change that Bible into a passport. Let's go full commerce on it. So effectively what happened was it left the UPU, that was Universal Postal Union, or Vatican, whatever you want to call it, was in control of the hearts and minds of people for the most part. And as that grip started to get lost, then something new had to be set up, and that's where the whole legal nonsense stuff came into play. And the rest, they say, is history. So that's what the governments had prior to the birth registration that we know today, had the power. In all my research, that was the trend I saw. The less power that religion had, the more power that the system started to take over, and of course enforce with guns and what have you. If you notice, what used to be the religious persecution, witch hunts and burning at the stakes and hangings and drownings and all the rest of it, got taken over by none other than the law enforcement, which are basically doing the same thing. Have a look. Have a look at what your standard cop mentality is today, and compare it to, say, 300 years ago, 400 years ago, in the Salem witch trials and the Spanish Inquisition. It's the same shit. Guilty without trial, summary execution on the spot. I mean, that's exactly what a summons is, a ticket, or is a summary execution. Where instead of trying to take your whole soul at once, they just take a little piece of it. And every time you agree to it, they're taking a little piece of you. So the less you agree with, the more soul you get back. The more soul you get back, the more power you are given, to the degree that you can accept the responsibility and not be an arrogant little prick about it. Remember, it's a fine. Arrogance and humility are exactly the same. Because you can be very humble in arrogance and very arrogant in humility. You got to sit in the middle of that one, though. All right, so that's all that happened. It went from religious control to legal and statutory control. Same game, though. Rose Bay under the name, still a rose. So one pile of shit just became another pile of shit. They just spray painted a different color, that's all. Question 2. Hopefully that covers that. Question 2. Before looting and scuttling a ship, would a pirate get the ship's captain to register with him or the entity? See, these... I'm going to be really gentle here, but if you're going to ask me questions in analogy form, please don't play the monkey left brain banter game with me. I will shred it. Okay? This next one is absolute shite. Ridiculous. I'm going to read it out only for the benefit of all and for yourself. I'm going to ask you to stop doing this, because you're thinking yourself into a grave. Before looting and scuttling a ship, would a pirate get the ship's captain to register with him or the entity he represented prior to boarding in order to successfully loot and scuttle the ship? My friend, it's very simple. The ship was already boarded without your knowing. You had a stowaway with intention to deceive and defraud, called the registration office. A captain unknowingly letting a scuttler aboard their ship has already let the pirate aboard, and is already in a spirit contract with saying that that's okay, so anyone can board the ship, just like having Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, usually when I'm hitting the nail home, get a little bump fest going on here. So, yeah, this is critically important stuff, so I want to carry on with this. Here's something else, too. Before looting and scuttling a ship, well, I don't know about you, but if you were a marauding pirate, you'd probably pick on unarmed vessels, namely merchant machines or merchant ships, right? You know, they're just designed to carry cargo. Which is, now, if you look at the average individual on the planet, they're all just a bunch of merchant ships traveling, you know, solo. And of course, you have armed marauders in cruisers, right? Typically cops or whatever, that are traveling around, and they are armed. They have cannons, if you will. You can call them cannons for cannonballs or cannons called laws. That's why everything originally based in religious law was moved into corporate law, because the religion had lost its grip on humanity, for the most part. Again, if but one shall awaken is enough. So here's the difference. Well, if you're traveling around in a merchant ship, you're going to get boarded by a ship that's stronger than you. So what people really need to start doing here is start looking at your own ship for a change and decide, well, are you a ship of the line, a merchant ship, or are you a bristling with cannon flagship like mine? You see, that's the thing about pirates. They would never attack a superior ship. They would only attack an inferior one. When you have your spiritual armor on, whether you think it can be seen or not, it's irrelevant, because the universe does. So if you're walking or sailing around this planet as a simple merchant ship, well, expect to be boarded. Your escutcheon, your nameplate, the keyhole, that's the keyhole covering, or the nameplate on the back of the ship, is the all-caps name. So if you're traveling around with Mr. or Mrs. so-and-so and so, you're saying that you're a merchant vessel, please board me and rape and pillage my cargo that's registered with that name. I talked about this ages ago. Right? The name, if you look at the name as from a completely naval perspective, the name is a ship. Everything you register to that ship is your cargo, be it kids, be it homes, cars, everything, right? Anything that's registered through that legal name is registered on board that cargo ship, a merchant ship. And what happened over time with me was that merchant ship, that was always lightly armed anyway in the spiritual sense, became a bristling with firepower, don't fuck with me flagship. That's why the pirates and the marauders don't come near it, because they know full well, like March 14th, that I will blow them out of the water. And it really is that simple. So there's your allegory. So I'll read it, and then, having told you that, listen to the question. Before looting and scuttling a ship, would a pirate get the ship's captain to register with him, well, already did, or the entity he represented prior to boarding in order to successfully loot and scuttle the ship? Well, it was already done, you see. If the captain and the crew of the ship to be boarded knew who they were, well, they wouldn't get boarded because the ship would be unapproachable, now wouldn't it? And we're standing in truth, well, obviously they're not, because they're a helpless merchant still playing in the Whore of Babylon commerce game with the name Mark of the Beast. So they're not standing in truth. They're standing in a load of shite, illusional shite. And we're not registered with a pirate or entity represented, then this would mean that the pirates were powerless against them. Absolutely. Sorry. You got to scuttle your own ship. Any good captain will, to make sure that the pirates don't get the prize. So you got to scuttle your own ship. And I'm talking allegorically. Okay? Now, in as much as it's a lot of redundancy, it's a great question at the same time, because it allows me to show the contrast, and that's all I'm going to be doing here is showing contrast. Guys, I don't want to see anybody getting hurt. And the longer you dabble and fuck around in this nonsense called legal, the more you're going to get hurt. And those that have made great strides in holding the system at bay, if they're still out there trying to talk to people in legal remedy sense, all of those gains are going to be stripped from you. Pay close attention. By your actions you are known. If you did something using truth, so to say, let's say, keep your home, for example, and you're still talking to others, trying to offer up some bullshit legal remedy, the universe is going to spank you. and I give it its blessing. Crazy. There's a few of them here, so let me carry on here. 3. If we were in World War II and you were British and you were captured by the Germans and you didn't tell them your name, well, I guess the uniform that claims that you already are a dead legal fiction anyway. Doesn't matter. Legal or common law, doesn't matter. When they interrogated you, does that mean that you couldn't be harmed by them? No, the mere fact that you're wearing a uniform says, shoot me. Now, if you were a civilian, different story. True story. The individual I was talking to knew someone that was in lineups for the trains going to the concentration camps. And the German officer, SS officer, and cohorts went down the line asking for everybody for the papier. Papier, I think it is. The papers. They'd hold their papers up and they'd ask, is that you? And they answered, yes, on the train with you. This is a true story. Got the one lady and her child, and she held up her papers and was asked, is that you? And she said, no. These are just papers. Free to go. And she walked away. That was a very pivotal story. Let's go back about 4 years that was shared with me. That was piling on top of what I already knew with regards to the name. See, that's the thing about sitting at this table. I don't know what I've got to do to convince anybody it's this simple. But still, people want to keep complicating it with all sorts of scenarios instead of focusing on the most important thing in the universe, you. So, I'll carry on here. What about the Jews that were forced to work in Peenemünde, Germany, making V1 rockets? Well, what about the homosexuals? What about the artists? What about the professors? Whatever. The Jews were just a small percentage of that. So you better change that thought right away. Stop buying the Zionist lie of 6 million Jews. Sorry. It's amazing how one thing gets focused on when there were countless millions that died, and somehow one particular sect of our society is more worthy of getting talked about. Well, I always question that. What are you selling? What's your agenda? And there's always an agenda attached to that. But regardless, I mean, I've talked about that before. Get over the hoax, will you? Simple fact is, countless millions of people got killed because of a bad idea. And the bad idea was started by the Western side. Churchill, Roosevelt, the Vatican, London. It's not a coincidence that not one bomb dropped on the city of London square mile. Don't you find that kind of odd? Countless bombing raids over London, and not one bomb fell in the city of London that I know of. St. Paul's Cathedral, untouched. Really? All right. Were all these people previously registered with the entities that were to enslave them, or were they forcibly registered before going into slavery? Well, I'll ask you the question. We're talking 70, 80 years ago here. Are we in a different moment of now with a different level of awareness and understanding of who we are spiritually? Of course we are. So these kind of scenarios are redundant because they're always going to be answered the same way. They didn't know who they were. And the ones that did, well, like that little story I just shared, they were left alone. Don't get caught in the physical excuses and reasons for why these things happen. The universe changes in the mind, not on a piece of paper. It changes in the heart, not on some registration book. No, none of you are forced into slavery right now. If you think you're living in slavery, it's because it's your own choice. You're the one that agrees to be in the Whore of Babylon system. You're the one that agrees to register. You're the one that agrees to not do anything about it. And I'm talking I'm planetary here, okay? the only difference with me and all of that is I chose to change my reality. No one told me to change it. I told me to change it. Something's messed up here, and I don't want to be party to it any longer. I'm going to see what I'm doing that's causing the mess up. What responsibility of the mess must I take part of? Or you can stay in the ego blame game, and it's so-and-so's fault and their fault, and it had nothing to do with me. Oh, everyone's very quick to take the glamour of the victories, but as soon as they do something stupid, they don't want anybody knowing about it. I've done tons of stupid shit, so have you. Get over it. Have a look at it. Move on. Have you screwed somebody over? Yeah. You cheated? Yeah. You done this? Yeah. Look at yourself honestly. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone. Put the rocks down, kids. 4. What happened during the slave trade in Africa? Are we still talking about now, or are we still talking about 200-300 years ago? Get in the now. Again, you were dealing with a world that was filled with religious psychopathy. And that even involves the different tribes that had different religions and ceremonies and rituals. It's just the same as Rome to me. I don't know, waving hands over people, I'm a healer, this, and all the rest of this new age shit and goes along with it. That's why I don't buy any of it. Listen to some of Bill Donohue's work on rituals and traditions. Trade I shuns, yeah. Writ you alls, indeed. Sarah Monies. Yeah. No, it's just a coincidence. So anyway, what happened during the slave trade in Africa when the Americans were taking Africans and forcing them to work on the plantations? Well, here, let me correct your fucking history. The heaviest slave traders were the Portuguese. The Dutch. The Spanish, the English. Yeah, there were some Americans that got involved in it later. But the slaves were brought there to be sold, and the Portuguese slave traders were the biggest ones in the game. So have a look at it before you start labeling things. And again, this is not about blaming anything on anyone. It's about looking at history objectively, and really the history you were taught is absolute bullshit to begin with. But there you have it. What about Greece and Rome? Well, what about Egypt? If you're going to start, let's go back to the Phoenicians. Let's go back to the Egyptians. The Egyptians were slave traders. They had the master slave thing set up. I've said it before. I'll say it again. All the pyramids were a giant smart meter to keep the reptilian brainstem interfered with DNA of the humans in check. And some of us broke through the programming and overwrote it, got our transceivers back. This whole reality we live in has always been about slaves and masters. That's the bad idea. Nothing is more enslaving than money and usury. Were these slaves knowingly or unknowingly registered, contracted with the nations and enslaved them? No, they were just fucking kidnapped. But they were part and party to something that was less than the service to all. Did the tribes in Africa war at any time? Oh, right. So they weren't at peace, were they? Did they have multiple different ways of looking at different, god or gods or whatever the case may be? Of course they did. We're in a slightly different moment of now, wouldn't you say? So, yeah. Of course they did. This whole planet's been about slavery. It's a slave planet. I'll bring this right up to the present. Were the modern-day slaves, known as humanity in general, knowingly or unknowingly registered, contracted with the nations and enslaved them? Yeah, well, if you call yourself a citizen, well, welcome to your slavery. And you agreed to it. I'd say don't do that. And all you got to do is change your mind on this stuff. No paperwork required. I don't need anybody's permission to be free. I simply am. Took a while to figure that out, but I got there. So I'm told the British, the Crown, abducted people from Ireland and used them as slaves in America. Man, the Irish were used as slaves for a very long time. The Crown thought nothing of coming over and butchering. You might have heard of the Great Potato Famine, which was the Great Potato Smokescreen, where Ireland went from over 18 million people to less than there's 4.5 million people on the island now, and that's with all of the immigration and what have you. The Irish were almost wiped out. It wasn't because of something. Yeah, are you telling me that potato, by the way, is from the New World, i.e. North America? It didn't exist in Europe until it was brought back by the New World Order people. You know, the Spanish galleons and the British fleets. Potato is a North American tuber. So you're telling me that in less than 100 years, the Irish forgot how to feed themselves? And went from 18 million people to less than 4? No, they were put to the bayonet, so yeah. The Irish for a very long time were always considered, and this is how it was put, the Irish were the niggers of Europe. And you should do a little research in that word. It's actually a very close to God word. Yeah, the N word. Nagger. Do a little research on that. You might be surprised. I sure was. Oh, but Kay, tell us. No, go do your own work. I've done enough. Lazy bastard. So what type of physical, non-physical contract would exist between the Irish slaves and the entity that enslaved them? Well, if there was one. Well, it's a non-physical contract of agreement thinking that you need to be a slave. Right? Again, this comes right back down to self-responsibility. Stop lumping people into groups, guys. And I love to post taking the word, I'm not sure if it might have been Shanman or somebody, please let me know, remind me, but someone wrote the word group, and when you separate it into 2 words, it says grow up. Grow up. How were the Native Americans overpowered by European invaders when neither party had met one another prior to the invasion? Well, it was easy. The indigenous people here, like everywhere else on the planet, likes their shiny trinkets. Got razzled and dazzled by the gold and the tools of the West, the Atlantean tools. And like fools, went into contracts with known deceivers and known liars. All that was needed was for some part of a tribe to put a mark on a piece of paper to enter the entire race of people into this 2-dimensional world. So I say any natives that are walking around with a status card, you need to grow up. I don't care if you get out off the reservation, you don't pay tax or whatever. Because you think you've got something, you're a bigger slave than the rest of us. Yeah, your status card says, well, I'm a status slave. And I've got the card to prove it. I've got the card that says I'm an idiot, that I can be bought and paid for. You know me, guys. I'll call it as I see it. And if that's uncomfortable for people, that's fine. It's because you're finally realizing that you are just that, fucking slave. It's your own fault. I was in it. I thought everything legal was real, too, at one point. Oh, did you get duped? Well, so did I. So did everybody. But we're not duped anymore, and this is the grow-up part. It's like, oh, you got me, good one. Get over it. Move on. Know thyself. Okay, here we go. What about the New York Stop and Search program detailed in the video, The Hunted and the Hated, an inside look at the New York Police Department stop and frisk policy? What the fuck does that got to do with me or anybody that knows who they are? That's the slave program, so if you are using a legal name, then, yeah, enjoy it. There was a young man in the video who seemingly got assaulted by the police. He didn't get assaulted. He's carrying ID. Without them asking his name or to produce ID. Well, I've said that before, too. You can walk up to anybody on the street right now. Go ahead and try this for yourself and prove me wrong, would ya? Go up and talk to someone on the street right now, someone you don't know, and ask them if they carry ID of any kind whatsoever. Someone carrying a purse or someone with a wallet in their pocket. Ask them if they're carrying ID. I don't put my $5 on that says that, yeah, I got my ID. So I think it's very safe for any cop to assume and presume that people are carrying ID. That's why they don't come near people like me, because we know who we are. More importantly, they know who we are. Lose the fear. I want them to know I'm here. I want them to hear me screaming from the top of the mountain. Because I know it scares the shit out of them and it has them quaking in their little booties. Because they know just how powerless they are against the true essence of the heart of all creation that I simply stepped into. I will accept perfect creation. I won't be Luciferian trying to create a nightmare for myself. So I'll read that again, and you think that in the back of your mind. And thank you so much for this. This is a beautiful contrast where I can show so many things to people. So I have nothing but gratitude for this email. So there was a young man in the video who seemingly got assaulted. Not seemingly. You get assaulted or you don't. There's no seeming or wondering or maybe. If they get assaulted, they're assaulted. So stop bullshitting yourself. Without them asking his name or to produce ID. In this case, I have no way of knowing if this man did give his name or produce any ID, but I'm assuming that he didn't. Well, that's your problem. You're assuming. If you're assuming and presuming something, well, then something can be assumed and presumed of you. I don't assume or presume a fucking thing. That requires belief. I'll leave that for the churchitis types. Okay? So there's another one. Stop assuming and presuming things because you're still stuck in the belief motif. You're still stuck with your head up the Piscean fish's ass. The video suggests that he didn't give his name or produce ID. I don't care. If he's got a bank account, if he's got an address, guaranteed he's got ID somewhere, or he's got some sort of spiritual contract with a relationship, might have a kid. All of these things you have to look at. So when you start looking at the assuming, presuming, you all of a sudden start running out of options real quick. So it won't be an assumption or presumption that this individual has ID or some spiritual contract connected to him. It's because they do. And that, I'm going to lead into this with the question regarding the different individuals you named as far as well-knowns. And I'm going to tell you exactly what I think, because I always do. In the UK, there was an incident a few years back where 3 policemen beat up a drunk serviceman, who was offering them help dealing with a difficult situation. It was caught on closed-circuit TV. Judging by my recollection of the video, it didn't look like the 3 policemen asked for a name before they beat the serviceman up. Why did this occur? I already answered that, didn't I? And I want you to go out at some point tomorrow, and I want you to go up to a total stranger and ask them, got a strange question for you, but do you carry identification with you? Try to count the no's that you get. Oh, yeah, of course I do. I can't go to the bank without it. I can't drive without my license. Really? Right? Can't travel without a passport. Can't do. Look at all the can'ts that you can't do based on a 2-dimensional bullshit story that you bought. That's why that occurred. The guy was in uniform. He had a job. He's obviously working for a corporation registered, business registered. Had to put in an application, which is to beg and plead, to become part of the electromagnetic ploy of consciousness. You might say employee. Number 6. Can one person commit a crime against another person without a prior spiritual contract in full force and effect, or even interact with them without a prior spiritual contract in full force and effect? Don't even know what the fuck you're asking me there. Crime's a crime. Wrong's a wrong. A harm's a harm. Spiritual contraction, no spiritual contract. Couldn't any person just bang another person irrespective of the paperwork? Sure, if you're an evil bastard, sure you can. But you're going to pay for that anyway. But I'll tell you, the one that gets bagged is one that deserves to get bagged, not someone who knows what and who they are. Because at the point of knowing what I'm telling you, the universe has you. The what-ifs disappear. The potential of getting bagged is gone. It's a very physical paradigm motif that you're stuck in there. So give your head a little shake and step outside of that box. Isn't that what muggings, burglaries, hostage situations, conflicts, genocide, wars, etc. are? Well, of course they are, because as long as people are committing fraud, committing harms and wrongs against others, like I said, those who are sinless cast the first stone. That's why I tell people, if you're putting shit out, don't expect roses back. Unless, of course, your intent is to put shit on the ground to plant roses in, physically. What ye sow, so shall ye reap. 7. Why haven't spiritual people talked about this sort of thing before? Well, because they're still fast asleep. How's that for an answer? Wouldn't they be the first people to know about this spiritual fraud? Well, apparently not. Apparently it looks like maybe I was. Who cares? Because up until the point of outside the box, this table that we set at every single night, there was nobody, not a single fucking soul talking about what I was talking about. That's why I stopped talking about what everybody else was talking about and went looking for shit on my own. Doesn't make me special or woohoo. Just statement of fact. You can go to my website, caveofgaia.wordpress.com, and you will read essays and documents like you have never read before. People ask me, is there a book on Phoenician? No. Well, how do you know about it? Well, I'm writing the book. I mean, every book that gets written, they had to know something before they wrote it, yeah? And so I'm writing it, but it's the real-time writing. See, my movie doesn't have an end or a beginning. It's a book of life. It doesn't have the end attached to it. It has to be continued on every page. Okay, why have we heard nothing about this from people like David Icke, Wendy Kennedy, Courtney Brown, David Wilcock, Michael Tessarian, etc.? Why? Because they're still seeing things. Michael Tessarian is the closest one I know to the anagogic. And for those that see the magic, that have been part of the magic, have experienced the magic, that know exactly what it is I'm talking about, know exactly what it is I'm talking about. If you want to figure that out, go read all the essays. Start working on yourself. Start taking responsibility for your bullshit that you've done to other people. Remember, you don't avoid people because you don't like them. You avoid former people that you know and love. You avoid them because of something you've done to them and don't want to confront it. In the same way, like I reach out constantly to all of those that are close to me. Not constantly, a lot more so before, but the ones closest to me. Why do I never hear from them? What are they running from? It is my wish to communicate, clear things up, settle everything out, remove their guilt. It's the only reason that they're not wanting to communicate with me. They can't confront their own lack of compassion. So it's easier to be an ostrich and stick your head in your ass and hope that it goes away. But like the princess and the pea will always be there until you remove it yourself. I don't care how many mattresses you pile on top of it, you will not sleep well, ever. That's the allegory of that story, taken to a very high anagogic level. That pea is that one thing that you still need to resolve within yourself. That one thing, that one harm that you have created that you need to deal with in yourself. Take full responsibility for it. And then answer it this way: that is something I would never do again. And really, really mean it. Say what you mean what you say. So the reason why these people haven't clicked on it yet is because they haven't hung out with us yet, have they? And again, I go across the list. Are any of these individuals making huge amounts of money doing what they're doing? Are they wallowing in their own glory? I'm going to leave Mike Tessarian out of this. Wendy Kennedy and Courtney Brown, not two individuals I know much about. I do know a bit about, well, of course, a lot about Dave Icke and David Wilcock. No one loves David Wilcock more than David Wilcock. And David Icke's got a huge voice, and I really wish he'd be passing this message on. You know, he wants to set humanity free, as he claims. Well, here's the tool, buddy, and you've got the audience to show it to. The table's open for David Icke any night of the week. That might be a little hard for him to handle, though. You see, that's a problem with me, especially being interviewed or dealing with people. I don't back down. No amount of razzle-dazzle bullshit is going to convince me that 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. And people will learn very quickly. I've shredded more than one radio host in my day. It's not because I out there to do it because I want to. It's because I'm not going to tolerate any bullshit. Because I know the damage that you're doing not only to your own soul, but that of humanity's, and I will not tolerate it. I will not aid and abet harm against humanity. What about sensitivity, psychics, remote viewers, those who have out-of-body experiences? Well, depends on what reality you're dealing with. If you're still stuck in the physical reality thinking this is all there is. I know a lot of people that would claim themselves to be psychic and fucking couldn't tell the time if they looked at their own watch. If part of a person's being or existence, you suggest the soul, was trapped in a bottle, wouldn't they know about it? Well, yeah, this is what we're talking about right now. It is. Time to uncork that puppy, yeah? Is this type of spiritual fraud somehow invisible to everyone? Of course it is. Even those you might think, or you might think, would have the ability to intuitively know. Well, that's the only thing I trust is my intuitive. I don't trust my brain, my mind. That was corrupted. My heart is incorruptible. Because I always know what I feel. I don't believe what I feel. I know that what I feel might be joy, might be sorrow, might be anger, might be frustration, might be this, might be that. A whole variation of different emotions. And I know which emotion it is. I don't, well, wow, I believe that I might love that individual. No, baby, you know it, or you don't. Okay? Just a little example. When you're angry at somebody, do you believe you're angry, or do you know you're angry? See, the mind says believe, the heart says no. Read that again. Is this type of spiritual fraud somehow invisible to everyone? Yes, even those who might think, or you might think, would have the ability to intuitively know, or would have the necessary faculties and perception to see what had been done to them or the people in their environment. Depends on your level of awakening and awareness. Me, I don't worry about all those devil in the details things anymore because they're all part of a Luciferian false light construct. Time to get out of the movie. Creating your own, you know? And everyone has the necessary faculties if they have a heart. Unfortunately, those that don't have a soul won't know the difference. And you know them, the psychopaths that just, no matter what, have no compassion for anything. Compassion is the true definer of the individual. One's compassion or lack of compassion is a clear indication of whether one has a soul or not. And again, words to me are just gangly-legged, barely able to walk representations of what I deem to be truth. And unfortunately, the literal words fail me to carry across some of these most simple of concepts. It's why I talk about it so much in so many different ways, hoping that I cover it in some way that triggers with someone. And obviously I have with very many of you, as you are awake walking your own yellow brick road. So I change up the 3 chords every so often, but it's still the same 3 chords. I just change the order I play them in. Okay, 8. You assert that once one loses the name, one is largely untouchable by the system, hence the confrontation on the 14th of March 2014 when you dispatched the OPP live on air with no license plates, VIN, or ID. Now, here's a word I hate and love to see at the same time. I do not assert anything. I just claim what happened. That which is doesn't need to be asserted. Truth is always self-evident. One merely accepts truth, or one doesn't and finds an excuse to bullshit their way around taking responsibility for how they screwed up. So, carrying on here. Your argument, I don't have one, is that once the intent of the crown... argument? What is an argument? I don't debate anything. I either see what it is or keep looking until I do. No argument there. Anyway, your argument is that once the intent of the crown, dark principality, whore of Babylon, to hold us in the spiritual servitude via soul entrapment through registration at birth is exposed and thus broken, there is no way for an agent of the crown, dark principality, whore of Babylon, to interact with a person who has become aware of this and refuses to use their legal name when interacting with them. As you say, you disappear off their spiritual radar. Absolutely you do. But for me to try to explain in a couple of sentences the magnitude of what you just tried to outline there, it's taken me 6 years of radio to get across. It's all summed up in the Babylon is Fallen one-page article. If you want the background, go to the website and read. When you know who you are, you see, here I am trying to describe a view from the top of the mountain to people at all different levels, and that's not a make less or make greater than. It's just a different point of you. How am I to describe the view from where I'm standing, having climbed here, to someone that might still be in the valley, trying to claim that somehow they have a better view? Kind of an illogical argument, don't you think? Tell you what, how about you climb up here, and I've given you all the rungs of the ladder to get here. That's how I got here. All I'm trying to share is how to get through that minefield without getting your legs blown off. I've already been through it. I've had my legs blown off a few times. But I know where the mine is, and I know where I'll never step again. So, by all means, walk yourself through the minefield at your own peril. All I can offer is a way to avoid a lot of those mines, if not all of them. But you got to get down and dirty and do some serious work on yourself. I say this to all. I say it to myself. Do not expect someone to come and save you. Like much of this, and again, this is standard to me. This is system speak. This is still having a sense of something outside of you having more authority than you. Now, carrying on here, almost done. If, as history would seem to suggest, a person can make another person their slave without even knowing who they were until they met them, and presumably without any prior intent to be enslaved or written paper or contract between the invader and the person to be enslaved, then what would be the point of spiritual enslavement via mass soul entrapment through registration at birth? Well, to answer that question very simply, without that, this principality, this dark entity, would not exist at all. This bad idea had to be created. It also has to be given life, and that's what you do. And remember, it's still a game to see if you can figure it out, or to see if the game is playing you instead of you playing the game. Why go to all the trouble when you can ostensibly enslave someone without registration or knowing their name, either a parentally given non-legal name or a self-assigned name? Well, as soon as I finish this, I'm going to go back to the one answer I gave you. If the soul is a true commodity that the crown dark principality whore of Babylon wants, then why not register people at birth and leave it at that? Well, they're already doing that. They're actually registering, giving people's kids social insurance numbers before they're even born here in Canada. That's how shit scared the system is. That's how far back we've peeled this thing. What do they call those things before you get married? Wedding registry, right? Register the newlyweds couple at this store and they can get this and this, you know. Now put that in terms of children. Because they grab remember this, guys, the registration can only occur at the time of conception, the gamete interfallopian transfer. And going before that is further proof of the spiritual contract called a marriage in a church and or state license, which means every contract entered into between the married couple. By the way, this is null and voiding all of this right now. Everything the married couple do in that relationship is owned by the church and state, based on their ignorance of what it is they're getting into. Well, everyone else is registering. Everyone else is getting married in a church. Everyone else believes in God. Well, go ahead, fucking lemmings. Well, the first lemming jumped. Knock yourself out. Like I said, I got a lawn chair sitting at the edge of the cliff watching the lemmings go over, and I'm got a little sign up. No names here, mate. Thanks, White. Beautiful. No names here, mate. Lose the name, win the game. Jumping, big question mark. Wouldn't do that. How about you come over here and we'll tell you why you shouldn't be following the rest of those idiots, because I have all sorts of photographs taken at the bottom of what actually happens when you do the jump, thinking that it's going to be okay. No. If the soul is the true commodity that the crown, dark principality, whore of Babylon wants, then why not register people at birth and leave it at that? Well, it's already being done. Why go to all the trouble of developing a vast apparatus to drain energy out of people via the name? Well, because we're figuring it out. You see, they're trying to build a better mousetrap, and the more complicated the mousetrap, the less efficient it's going to be, unless you've never played the game Mousetrap. Okay? Via the name, Narmer Palette, when you can vampire energy through TV, sigils, religion, or some other metaphysical technique. What do you think they're doing? But at the end of the day, my friend, at the end of the day, all that is needed is for your ignorant consent to be any part of it. And I'm going to go back to the same answer I started with. Only one answer. Ignorance of the law, divine law, is not an excuse, given one finally realizes the whole physical game is an illusion. And I will tell you right now that answer will never be sufficient for the vast majority of people, because it's not complicated enough, and it involves far too much responsibility of the self to get a grip on their own lives, to take responsibility for the shit that they're pulling on others, the destruction, the theft, the lies, the sheer nonsense, the immaturity, the whining, the groaning, the arguing, the debating, the picking fights, and all the rest of the shite that goes along with the ego that has you owned lock, stock, and barrel. That's the true game. And the only thing the name game is to me, and has been for a very long time, is the clue and the key to look inside myself. Without name, just as self. Making my choices of the things that I would do and the things that I would not do. Things that I have done that would never be done again, given the fact that they were done through the smeared and shit upon canvas that I came with a pure white one when I was born. Humanity is a product of its system, a product of the environment. Crime would not exist if not for the fact that crime fighters are put in place to give the illusion that crime does exist. Statistical fact. So hopefully that answers the question. And before we get the lines open here, I just want to share a little something. Thanks for sharing this clarity. And here we go. This one came in from Elizabeth. A friend from Portugal, and has been tuned in, hanging out with the writings, and understands who she is. And here it is in a nutshell. She put a post out this was an email she sent me. Norway, Germany, Portugal. After printing out the flight ticket at Sola Airport, the screen told me to go to the counter with the luggage. Let the fun begin, I thought. As expected, the lady asked if I have a passport or ID. I said no, I have this. And I gave her a self-made laminated card with this text. I, who shall not be with legal name. The identification you request identifies a legal person. The legal name fraud by converting living souls to legal persons through birth certificates is revealed. As known, all contracts based on fraud is null and void when the fraud is revealed. There's the magic key right there. I'm not a crook and therefore without ID. All names can be assumed, presumed to be legal name, which actually puts you in a position of aiding and abetting fraud, which is a felony of which you are completely liable for in your private capacity. What you decide to do from here is entirely up to you. Definition: legal person. An entity such as a corporation created by law and given certain legal rights and duties of a human being, a being real or imaginary who, for the purpose of legal reasoning, is treated more or less as a human being. Mostly less, actually, but that's okay. She reads, looks at me and says, I've never seen this before. What is it? No, I guess you haven't, I reply. But it won't be the last time, so I suggest you find out about the legal person and that any requested ID is not identifying a human being. We are quite a few who have figured this out and that do not consider ourselves as legal persons. She asks a colleague to read, who shakes her head. She's not seen anything like it either. Can you tell me why you don't have any ID? She asks. I answer truthfully that all my IDs are handed back to the government and that neither the population register, police, courthouse, or county governor seems interested to clean up this misunderstanding. Okay, then, I hope you'll be fine, she says and hands me back the ticket. I certainly will. That's a luggage check, by the way, okay? So luggage is checked now. And that's where you give your passport for the first time. Isn't that interesting? I smiled, thinking it was kind of strange she didn't take any notice of the name on the ticket, as it had its own little illegal twist for the occasion. She's a gamer. That's why I love her. I love anyone that's a gamer. When boarding, everybody shows the boarding card and passport. I do like nothing and only show the boarding card and get no reaction. Had a great conversation with a German woman at Frankfurt who, of course, got the name game info and wrote down keywords and web addresses I mentioned with great interest. In between, she shook her head and came with some left-brain questions I didn't answer. All she got from me was a smile. On my way to the gate, I must admit I saw myself in a Nazi talk before I would be allowed to board the flight to Lisbon. Even though I'm no longer a good listener anymore, the brain has a tendency to think of everything. Oh, yes, it does. Imaginary molehills into real mountains, even. I just stayed focused, knowing I was doing the right thing. Just before I get to my gate, A28, what are the odds? Pretty good, I think. There was a kiosk called Relay. I had an inner laugh and went in, got something to drink, and had another inner laugh looking at the receipt. It said Hub Convenience. Of all things, there are now put up scanning machines of the flight ticket when boarding. No more personnel that will check your ticket and ID. So yes, relay on life and convenient indeed. Kind of a shame I didn't get the opportunity to inform a few more in the airline industry, but I guess I have started a discussion in an insurance company in Germany, though, through the name game, info given to the man next to me on the plane. He was one of 65 employees, there's that 65 again, 11, right, who went on the team building to Lisbon, and who definitely got something to think about. So much magic happening. Babylon is fallen for sure. We are a bunch of people sending emails to journalists these days, informing about the emails we sent 4,000 bank employees last week. Today I ended up in a dialogue with a man working for a local newspaper who happens to write about a huge disagreement about the very building all Norwegian corporations are registered. What are the odds? Love your life. Kiss and a smile. An email from Elizabeth, traveling. So there you go. Okay, let's get these mics open. Should probably do a quick shout out. Yeah, I only got 20 minutes left here, guys. But that's not to say that I'm not going to listen to you guys. Sorry, there's a lot of things that I wanted to really get out there tonight and really drive this point home. Know thyself. So for those that want to call in at 661-467-2401, and of course BTR listeners 050. So please, lines are open. Big thank you to Paul Giovanni and the crew at criticalmassradio.co.uk. Anything you guys can do to help out, great. And that's in any way, shape, or form. Doesn't matter. No strings attached, Pinocchio. Oyster is yours to take all the pearls out of. You wish. And it would be my wish that you take every pearl I've got. So let's hear from you. Hands up, baby. Hands up. Get the ones. I got Janet still on the board here. Anybody?
Hey, Kate.
Hey.
Yep, I've just been celebrating life, dancing with live music at the park, which is over now, but the kids are all scattered.
Excellent. Well, that's what we want, you know. We want the kids out playing and having a great time, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And I do plan on an ayahuasca journey tomorrow, capped off with the DMT. I want to spend my birthday with Mom and Dad, the real one.
Yeah.
You know?
Sounds wonderful.
Well, tomorrow night's Sunday, so it's got to be, you know, Dr. Dimitri night, and I'm hoping that Chris is going to jump in. So if anything, one of you guys, while I'm sentient, one of you guys pop in here. Come on. It'll be an interesting show for sure. We got less than 20 minutes here, guys. So please. Thank you, Liberty. It's always the women.
To make room for kids to call, so I didn't really want to jump in, but I'm loving what you're saying, what you're doing. I'm feeling the freedom. I've been reading and reading and reading. You're so right. It takes a few reads to really get most of the depth of what you've been writing, but boy,
yes.
It's just opening me up in ways that are so divine.
Told you.
Yeah, you're right. You are so beloved by so many people, or hated, but I'm on the beloved side because I see who we all are, and we are so magnificent if we would just get over fear. Fear is what's been ruling all of us.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to leave room for kids because I was so excited when I had heard kids were coming on. So I really don't want to do anything but encourage them if they're anywhere around to do call in, since this is the first night for them. But thank you, and I'm here if whatever. I just jumping in, loving everybody at the table. I know there are many probably listening, but again, probably wanting to leave room for the kids. So I'm one of those two.
Well, and you know, that being said, I'm reading and I've got my eye on the board for hands up, and I just kept going when the hands weren't coming up. So table's open. And that's
inner kids, then maybe it's our inner kids that are coming to the table tonight, and I'm having so much fun. Oh, am I having fun? I do feel like a kid again.
So then it's working. You see?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Isn't that
really
funny?
is.
You know, but here, let me ask you, Liberty. Did you notice any difference between before you read the stuff and after?
Oh, absolutely. I highly, highly, highly recommend people reading everything on there. And I cannot say I've read it all yet. I'm close now. But the depth of the veils being lifted and the self-examination that is required to really get the depth. That's why it's like, yeah, sure, I'll just read it over the weekend. Ha, 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 ha.
Yeah. Well, that's the entry level, you know. But have you got a real sense of how beautiful you are?
Yes, and all of us are.
Yeah.
And that's the joy. It's like, oh, I can love through this. I need not hate anyone, anything, because it is me that is creating this reality with every thought, every word I am allowing to flow through me.
And what a great feeling once you start getting there. And then you get really, well, for me, you almost get obsessive with looking for all the, okay, what other shit have I got to get rid of? I need to get rid of, where is it? And you're digging and digging, and you're finding all this stuff, you know. And what starts out as can be a very difficult, fearful task of confronting the asshole that we've all been in ourselves, where it starts to become more fun because you're going, oh man, I never again. Oh, no, like people, seriously, if you're experiencing the same problems over and over, well, you might want to have a look at the same causes that you're doing, Just saying. It's typically, don't expect anything different if you don't change. And that's the thing. People want things to change, but they're adamant that they won't. Oh, I'm not going to change. Everything's going to change around. That's Luciferian, right? And you are going to be in such a loop, eating your own tail, eating crow, some crazy ass shit, man.
I had a great time looking at my birthday in the Hebrew calendar, and the numbers in that was like, oh, listen, that changes another perspective, because I've always loved numerology. And so it's the 22nd of Tevet, 5,713. I'm pretty old, eh?
Only as old as we feel, and that is the Anamundi calendar, right? So again, once we get there, these are just clues, guys. Don't take this stuff literally. They're clues as to who and what you are. So yeah, interesting. When you start looking at all of the pieces and start putting all of the pieces together, it starts to make sense. Don't you think?
Oh, it's. I would like to use the word enlightening, but it is beyond words to recognize our own magnificence, but our own power, which is so big. It's so much easier to say, no, they, but we are they. And we're creating them, like you said, and like I see myself too, with a thought that might come up, and that it becomes a mountain if I don't look at it soon and say, hey, whoa, where did that come from and why? And take a good breath. And what happens when you get to zero? Oh, isn't it most beautiful? Oh,
no, it's amazing when I'm calling, like that email, your soul is forfeit. I'm not saying anything to anyone that I haven't already said to myself.
Right.
So how am I threatening anybody? If I've done this to myself in terms of self-healing and awareness to end all harm to others, I guess the only threat that would exist then is those that still wish to create harm on others, and it's ruining their ability to get away with it. Nothing scares a thief or a crook more than getting caught.
So true. And it's the power of words. It really is. Now I see the spelling, and I'm sorry, my cat just jumped in front of me here. It is amazing, the phonetics, and I am starting to play. I haven't gotten far because I really want to read everything before I play more. It's almost as if using any words now. I tried to record, actually, a friend of mine requested that I make I'm just calling it a form, but it was a yoga video, CD, audio thing, and I don't have the right equipment for it. And what worked out, though, is that I could do it, but with no voiceover. And then I was going to add a voiceover, and there was none. And I thought, well, maybe that's because it should just be done, and words aren't in there. It's just sounds of breathing. That's it. So it's trying to see from a whole different perspective, and I thought of it as just doing it as a giveaway for those that might benefit from oxygenating their breath, their bodies on a regular basis. This particular form has saved me a million times when I've fallen off and stopped and started again. But recognizing it wasn't to make money, it was just to give away another way, another currency for people who don't realize if they don't breathe into their bodies on a regular basis, they are harming themselves. And most people forget to breathe. And the magic is in the breath.
Yep, that's the spirit. Remember, Gemini rules the lungs, arms, and hands. And if you're not treating the gem in I, right? The better yet, the chem. Take the G and put the hex. Take the hex out and put the spirit in. It becomes the chem in I, which chem means black, the darkness in I, which is the true source of all creation. In the beginning, God created dark or light. Well, if light was created, what must have existed in its absolute opposite first? All of creation is chem, dark, black. That's where the word ject or jet comes from. I object since going to the dark. Inject, to be not of the dark or to put into the dark. Again, these are all equal and opposites, right? So it doesn't take, honestly guys, it doesn't take a lot of effort. Just grab your crayons, a handful of words, and just go etymologically on it and start following the trails to see why the words mean what they mean and why they're such powerful spells and can be used against you. Anything you say can and will, not might be, will be used against you. Say is create. Anything you create can, ka-en, which is the infinite spirit, and will, oil, right, be used against you. Or for you, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I just choose to have it working for me instead of against me. The more benevolent acts you are doing for the benefit of all, instead of being self-centered and selfish in your own nature and thinking that it's all about you. See, the difference about the movie being all about you and all about you. One's an ego perspective of selfish me, and the other one is taking full responsibility for your starring role in your movie. In accepting that in the most humble state of humility you could ever imagine. That is why the meek shall inherit the earth. The servants of servants inherit the heart.
I love studying with a white king.
Well, going back to that email I read out, why aren't these people talking about it and whatever? And the only honest answer I can give them is because, as far as I know, up to the point where we sat at this table, I was the only one that was talking about it from that perspective. I got to tell you, it was a tough road to walk for me, in that I'm sharing stuff that just rings as true to the heart as anything, and in complete defiance of anything that we've ever been a part of in our physical reality, which is easy to prove in that, well, the whole physical reality has been corrupted anyway. So why would you want to be a part of corruption when you're going to be the part of perfection? And that's the only thing I chose, to be a part of that instead of being part of the solution instead of part of the problem. Problemish, or sun you shun, or sun you with intent, soul you, T stand in the law of truth, Io black, chem darkness, original goddess, infinitely mine. Where are you standing? I am the beginning and the end. I am the Alpha and the Omega. There is no end without beginning and no beginning without end. There is merely a never-ending story. The minute you think you've won and reached a destination, best think again. Because if you've stopped at somewhere along, station, right? Means you get it? Stationed? Stay shunned. And you're still shunning creation. So don't get off at the station. Stay on the ride. Or the right.
What a beautiful ride.
It's crazy, isn't it?
I'm enjoying the ride, and I'm grateful for this table. I'm grateful for my inner child that is just having that, learning all aspects of myself via others and via myself. I don't get to interact with too many people because I am way, but the ones that I am interacting with are such a delight to me right now. The ones that are seeing, it's almost as if I am being encouraged by many people that are frightened to do what I'm doing, but at the same time are really applauding me from within their hearts and in many of their actions, keeping me alive and well in a time where I could be not well financially, but it's like not a problem. It's always
no, it's not. Well, the universe has you, and this is what happens, and only those that live it and experience it. One of the I've got Brandon in here. I'll take a couple of calls. I'm rolling out of here in 5 minutes, guys. So just let me know.
Sorry. I love you.
No, Liberty. It's okay. It's all good. I'm just letting people know that I'm not going to get pushed into another hour here, guys. So all I really want to say here is this. You see, I get to sit in the humility of knowing that I've done something to help all of humanity. And that's a really cool feeling. And it's also a cool feeling knowing that each and every one of you as part of this are part of that. What have you done to change the world lately? And all it takes right now is an email. That's all it takes. It's my wish for you to experience this in its most humble gratitude within self that no words will ever describe. Am I finished my work? No, not by a long stretch. Well, infinity, we've only got forever, right? So, Brandon, I've got you in here, and 318, you guys can have your say, then I'm going to roll out.
I just want to say thanks, and love you all.
Thank you, Brandon. Love you, and thank you for all the efforts you're doing. Every one of you that are doing, even if it's just one little thing during the day, you have changed the universe forever. If you hand out one copy of Babylon Has Fallen, you have changed reality forever. These are powerful dominoes you're wielding, and they're simply truth. Not my truth, not your truth, just simply truth. Take part in truth. That's all I chose to do. That's why it was presented to me. I chose to play the truth game, and truth decided to play with me. It's pretty simple. 318, you get the last say.
This is Paul from Louisiana. I wanted to say happy early birthday.
Hey, Pa, how you doing? I got your message, by the way.
Yeah, and my young son wanted to be here. However, he went to see a movie with his mom and a friend.
Excellent.
So I apologize for not having him here.
Oh, no. Hey, dude, you tell him well done. I wish I'd have been going to the movie with him.
Yeah. Well, I thank you for all you do.
Oh, thank you, the sooner we get this done, guys, the sooner we can all go to the movies together and create our own modus operandi of life. M-O-V. They, truth. Vi, to do. V, French for life. It's for me in all modus operandi. Pa, thank you so much for what you're doing, and everybody out there. So don't forget, we're back here at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. I'll definitely be running probably the full 3 hours. But let's just say this, there's nowhere else I'd rather be to celebrate another turn of the sun than hanging out with you guys, you crazy bastards that are standing in the truth, changing this universe. Who else would I party with? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Nothing but the best, baby. Nothing but the best. So, yeah. Don't forget, tomorrow night, and the kids are welcome every night. And over the course of the week, I want to make Saturday nights kids' night, and I really would like to get someone else to actually host the table. Otherwise, I'll come on and end up talking too much like I did tonight. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Fair enough. Thank you, Kate. Love you all.
Happy birthday. Born day.
Yeah. Happy
Born day, re-entry
birthday.
day, whatever. Yeah. One more revolution around the, spiral day. Yeah. Magna Carta Day. Who cares? It's Sunday. It's just a day like any other. Just a reminder, and it's. I finally got to Hawaii 5-0. Ow! I made it. So on that note, next. So much love to you guys, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Love you.
Later.
You're listening to Kate of Gaia on Critical Mass Radio. The game is up. Now, it's our turn.
Yeah, it's quite mind-numbing. I was really part of that. I was a talking head, a literalist. Oh my God, and you have these revelations upon yourself, where the saner you get, the more insane this place becomes. Well, it always was insane. You just get in the eyes to see it for a change, which is a good thing. What can I say, really? So, this is great. I get to do two birthday broadcasts because it's already my birthday in Ireland. Midnight. Actually, it's not till 8:40 in the morning, Greenwich Mean Time. So there you go. Coincidentally, it's just a coincidence that tonight's BTR listener number is 50, and that's the magic number I just hit. Yay! Hit it. Next. Doesn't matter. It's just another day like any other. Just one of the clues on my path to figure out who the hell I was. Remember who I was. And, of course, for those that know anything about history, they'll know that June 15th, and I know it's the 14th, still in the West right now for another little less than 5 hours. But for those that know anything about history, June 15th, 1215 was the signing of the original Magna Carta, the first version. Also to let people know that I've heard, over the years, of course the Magna Carta was something I looked at, but the Magna Carta was something written not for the people, it was written for the barons and the lords, trying to get the king back in line so that the barons and lords could still steal as much as they wanted from the masses, the serfs, the people. So the Magna Carta had nothing to do with the general populace. It was a deal written between a fictitious king and a bunch of fictitious masters, lords, barons, whatever you want to call them, slave drivers. So it has no weight or relevance, really. It's just another distraction. And the other side of that one, too, is just like the U.S. Constitution or any other piece of two-dimensional paper. If you didn't sign it, it's got nothing to do with you. So it's none of your business. It's none of your duality, your state of duality business, right? I've had a few interesting questions come in, like I always do. Let me see. So go to my email. A couple things I want to go over first. Okay. There we go. Let me just check here. Just checking a couple of things. I know I flagged it. Where was it? This one is a shout out for Amy. Amy, if you're listening. And just let you know there's someone close to you. And if you can get a hold of me, Amy, just call me on my cell, please, 226-971-9675, so I can hook you up with this individual. Excuse me. Where was it? I'm close to Amy, and I'd like to hear some more of her, and I have some ferns to get her going, as in FRNs, regarding computer. I hope we can send her this email, or we'll find a way to get her a computer. So, Amy, if you can get a hold of me, I can get you in touch with this individual, and get you sorted out. The universe is taking care of things. So there you go. Just wanted to share that. I just replied that that you're not always on the show or on the board, but that if you are tonight, then that would be great. So, Amy, please get a hold of me, and I'll hook you up with this individual. And nope, not seeing your number on the board. So, but I know you listen to the show. So as soon as you get this message, give me a call on the cell. By the way, guys, really low on minutes, so be careful if you're calling me. I have had more phone calls this last week than I've had in a very long time. I had a chance to talk to Michael this morning. He called me. He's doing great, doing absolutely awesome. And I spent the time just reinforcing. There was a few things, a few questions.
I said I wanted it.
Hey, how are you?
Oh, my mom, not
not the stupid show.
So I wanted to call my mom, not be on a show.
I love it.
She's waiting for her sister and her cousin because they were going to do the no-name peer mate, but
okay, no problem.
They went to find Mackenzie, so.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, they do know it's their show tonight, right?
Yep, I told them, and they were all planning on getting together because we're at the park right now.
All right, and you know it's a little more than no names here, mate. Just want to hear a bit about you and what your dreams are, and this is the opportunity for the children to show the grown-up children how to be children again, to get that life of dreaming that was robbed from all of us at such a young age. See, we're at a point now where we will not let our children have their dreams taken. Don't you think? Oh, I still lost her. Okay. Oh, there you are. I heard something. That's all good. But anyway, guys, let's get in the fray here. There was one. I'm going to go through all of the questions that came in through this email. I also got it in a Facebook post as well. Same questions. Just got to find where it is. Let me see where it was. No, not there. Don't mind me, guys. And by the way, D Washimoto, your work is astonishing. I should mention to you as well, I know that you are tuned in, that isn't it funny that I was, in my travels today, saw a truck and it triggered with me on the side of it the initials TAV, or with him exactly why he's there, and he's having a good time. Made a lot of the people with the emails and whatnot very, very nervous. So keep that beautiful pressure on. Remember, there's no vengeance or vindictiveness here, guys. It's just a clear statement of fact. And you know me, I'm very, very blunt with the facts. It may come across as something less than that, but you see, I just have this thing about lying to people. I just tell you straight up what's going on. There's no point in beating around the bush, you know. It's like somebody's house is burning to the ground. You're not going to walk up to them and start telling them about how fires start and, you know, can you smell the smoke and oh, look over there, looking the other way and stuff. No, you get right to the point. Buddy, your house is on fire. Let me help you. I've got a hose here. Okay? That's the attitude I adopt with everything. So, but yes, for those that want to call in, it's BTR listener 050. You put that in your Skype search. Search contacts. When it comes up, just right-click it to get to the board. And, of course, you can call in on the main line at 661-467-2401. And once you're on the board, all you have to do is hit 1 on the dial pad in the phone or open it up on Skype. And that lets me know that you want in the conversation. I will not be rolling over tonight, so don't even think about it. Mind is made up on that one, boys and girls. Anyway, what I really want is anyone out there right now that has children that want to jump in and want to maybe share some stories or whatever. That's kind of what tonight's all about. I will be looking for someone to actually host this night for the kids. I'll be there, but I would really like to start, you know, handing the reins over for especially those that are more adept in that field than I. Yes, I love children, no question, but you know what I'm saying. Some people can just do it better. So there you go. Oh, here we go. There's Janet jumping in. Let me just get the lines open. Now, let's get the lines open up tonight, guys, because they're.
You're listening to Kate of Gaia on Critical Mass Radio. The game is up. Now, it's our turn.
Good evening and welcome to Kate's Kids Night, outside the box version, here on criticalmassradio.co.uk. Yours truly, Kate of Gaia. Back at the helm. Anyway, I managed to catch a few minutes of the show last night. It's really not any shape to be calling in or whatever. Long story. All good. It's all good. Anyway, so haven't had a chance to listen back. Thanks, Mark, for jumping in there and grabbing the helm. when you did, and Mike and Colleen, everybody that Claire, everyone that called in and took responsibility for your table. Wonderful to know that it will actually happen. So, yeah, no Katie crutches required. That's the game, right? We're here to stand up for ourselves. Where do I want to start tonight? Well, first off, it's my intent for this evening to get as many kids to the table as possible so we can get them to share their stories, their dreams, their imaginations, their wonderings, their questions, where we can finally be in a position to teach our children well so that they're not caught in the same quagmire that we were caught in as children growing up, where our children and grandchildren, which is the future, actually has one, and that's my goal anyway, to make a world perfect for children, clean up the nursery, the mess that has been made of it by supposed adults that are quite less than hormonal-driven, psychotic teenagers that know everything. Because I'll tell you, those of you with your eyes open, having a look at this world and realizing that being part of it once